Give Colorado credit. We gave the U.S. Supreme Court something it can agree on. Former President Trump will not be disqualified from running for office.
Pardon me, Congress doesn't do anything anymore. I'm not surprised that we lost, but I am extremely disappointed in their reasoning.
Can budget cuts ever be fair? We go to Montbello, where community leaders believe the new Denver budget cuts unfairly target communities that need services.
If you are looking to have a city that remains whole, you don't take from the bottom, you take from the top.
Art galleries and hotel ballrooms are not unique. The location of this one sure is. Otherwise, this would not be next. It's unanimous. The U.S. Supreme Court today reversed the Colorado Supreme Court decision that disqualified former President Trump from the primary ballot. A 9-0 decision. Norma Anderson, who went to Washington, D.C., and seen here after the Supreme Court hearing last month, was one of 6 Colorado voters that joined a liberal group out of Washington to sue and keep Trump from running for office again, citing the 14th Amendment. They got walloped today, and yet her legal team still sees a victory, even when she does not. Do you come away saying, at least we got X?
No, I don't come away saying we got X.
Norma Anderson is a realist, even despite the 9-0 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court against her and her colleagues that tried to get former President Trump disqualified from running for office again.
I'm not surprised that we lost, but I am extremely disappointed in their reasoning.
The justices ruled that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the part that says you can be disqualified from office for engaging in insurrection, they ruled that cannot be used by states to disqualify someone from federal office.
The intent of the majority opinion here is to say that this was never for the states to decide, and so it really took the teeth out of everything that Colorado has done.
We went to constitutional law attorney Jessica Smith to look at the second half of the Supreme Court decision that said for the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment to be utilized, Congress needs to pass a bill allowing for that to happen.
It went so far as to not just say that Colorado couldn't do what it did, but that nobody can do something similar until Congress does something, and that's very broad.
Pardon me, Congress doesn't do anything anymore.
Former President Trump took a victory lap for the decision that protects his candidacy in 2024.
I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court for its unanimous decision today. It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted.
Trump, rightfully so, cheered the 9-0 decision in his favor. Somehow, Anderson's attorneys also saw a bright side.
Winning this particular outcome was not the only goal of our suit. The other goal of our suit was to make sure that everyone knows that this portion of the Constitution exists, has power and force.
But what good is knowing about the insurrection clause if it now has an additional hurdle that requires Congress to act before it can be used? It reminded me of when the Denver Broncos got blown out by the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 24, 55-10, and then perhaps bragging about scoring 10 points.
I strongly disagree with the characterization. This was nothing close to a 55-10 defeat. This was a game decided by the refs.
It's a blowout.
Like I said, Norma Anderson is a realist who, in this case, can admit defeat.
I will continue to defend democracy in the few years I have left.
The timing of today's Supreme Court decision is purposeful. Take away any doubt of Super Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Colorado, 14 other states, and American Samoa will hold presidential primaries. You've got less than 25 hours to return your ballot. As of last night, nearly 1 million ballots were in. That's about a fourth of active voters. Come on, can't complain if you don't vote. Almost 500,000 ballots returned so far are Republican ballots, but a third of those are from unaffiliated voters since they can turn in either the Republican or Democratic ballots. We'll be following along tomorrow as the Super Tuesday results come in. I'll help analyze what Colorado's results mean and why President Biden and former President Trump may not get every delegate the state has to give. Follow our updates tomorrow night on air and online at 9news.com. A lawsuit by state lawmakers against state lawmakers may result in state lawmakers changing open meetings laws. Kind of. 2 Democratic lawmakers sued both parties, claiming they were having secret meetings and using encrypted messaging apps to decide which policies lived or died. A bill to add some sunlight to the secretive process passed the Senate today, though lawmakers' electronic communications would be exempt from open meetings laws. So if it happens by text, email, and disappearing messaging app, we'll still be in the dark. The bill would also redefine public business. Discussions about not yet introduced draft bills would be public if they happen in front of a majority of lawmakers. In debate last week, Democratic Senate President Steve Fenberg argued the recent lawsuit has stifled conversation, even personal conversations, between lawmakers.
Some of the recent events and moments and attacks, and yes, litigation, has resulted in so much confusion that at times people are just simply not talking to each other. That is the antithesis of democracy in a lot of ways. We should be having deliberative, hard conversations. Some of those conversations should be formal. Others, I think, can and should be informal.
That bill now heads to the House, where it could change House policies, because after last year's lawsuit, House leadership agreed to provide public notice for all public meetings and make their text discussions available on request. The thing about budget cuts is, since they cut, you cannot avoid the impact. Community groups in Denver's Montbello neighborhood say budget cuts proposed by Mayor Mike Johnston unfairly target low-income areas. Mark Salinger shows us exactly how.
A little bit of worry, nervousness for our communities.
At this table in Montbello, the leaders who've worked to build up a community feel robbed.
I am certain
Kadisha Haynes,
that it is going to be detrimental. It already is.
Joel Hodge,
We're all worried.
Diane Cooks,
Yes, very worried.
and Donna Garnett
This is a really big deal.
all run nonprofits and community groups in Montbello. Together, they sit on the board of the Montbello Organizing Committee. They say the budget cuts proposed by Denver Mayor Mike Johnston to pay for the migrant crisis threaten to destroy everything they've built.
To have our community brought to its knees because we're losing the kinds of resources that people need.
It's tremendous worry for me because I know what it's going to do to our families.
Losing safety for our children, our youth.
If you are looking to have a city that remains whole, you don't take from the bottom, you take from the top.
Last month, when the mayor announced the first budget cuts, Parks and Rec and the DMV were the first to lose money.
We will also have to make some hard decisions around.
Johnston already announced more than $4 million in cuts from Parks and Rec, including cutting 25% of summer programs and cutting hours at rec centers.
Have been working together on how we find these cuts and how we make sure that these cuts are equitable.
Equity
That's what we provide.
that no one at this table sees.
It is not equitable, or we wouldn't be hurting in the way that we are.
Now community groups like Donna's and Diane's and Joel's and Kadisha's are preparing to fill in the gaps from the money they likely will no longer have.
To take from Parks and Rec, which is a universal need for every community, but particularly for communities that are on the bottom rung of the economic ladder in his city, seems to me to lack any moral consciousness.
The mayor's office told us again today that no final decisions on the majority of budget cuts have been made yet, other than the $5 million or so that's already been announced. We're told more decisions will likely be made in April. Regardless, though, these community leaders see the writing on the wall, Marshall. They know what's coming. They're just trying to prepare.
I'm sure every neighborhood is going to be complaining about cuts, but this neighborhood has a lot more at stake.
They say that things like the rec center, that's where people go when they're not at school. You think of summer coming up right now. They're worried it could lead to higher teen violence, mental health issues, things like that. I mean, we're talking about organizations like the Struggle of Love Foundation that we talk to all the time. They're a fantastic organization here. They are worried that this is a very real scenario with these budget cuts.
I remember back to the mayor's race, and Kelly Brough was promoting, I'm going to open up rec centers to kids. I'm like, that happened under John Hickenlooper when he was mayor. What are you adding? And now that it's gone, it's like, wow, that could be added back. That's helpful.
And one of Mayor Johnston's goals for 2024, decrease violence. These folks who work with these teens every day, they think that these measures are going to increase violence.
Well, they definitely have a voice themselves and through you. Thanks, Mark. It's not just Parks and Rec. Today was the first day that motor vehicle offices closed as part of Denver's first wave of budget cuts. Local DMV offices will close for 1 week at a time on a rotating basis. That started today with an office near I-70 and Peoria Street in Northeast Denver. It's part of the 15% budget cut to support Denver Mayor Mike Johnston's request, and that means a pause on in-person registration renewals. Instead, you'll have to renew online at an open Denver office. Any DMV kiosk around the city can help as well. And one more cut to announce in Denver today. Russell Wilson, though I don't think the mayor had anything to do with that. Last week, we asked Next viewers to chip in $5 to help memorialize the heroism of Kendrick Castillo, a STEM school Highlands Ranch student who was killed while rushing a school shooter. You came through big time, raising enough to create a public memorial and then some. Kyle's on the road with an update on this week's Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign.
Thank you for being with Next while I'm away. And thank you for your extraordinary generosity that fully covered the cost of the memorial being built to honor Kendrick Castillo, the young hero who gave his life stopping a school shooting in Highlands Ranch in 2019. You not only covered the $30,000 cost of the memorial for Civic Green Park, you raised nearly another $30,000 that will be used to start a robotics scholarship in Kendrick's name. So many in the Douglas County community have reached out with their thanks, including John Castillo, Kendrick's father. That thanks is for you. Back on Wednesday with an idea of another nonprofit somewhere else in our state that could use our help. If you ever have an idea, email me next@9news.com.
A jury just awarded a grandmother more than $3 million because of actions by Denver police. And a one-of-a-kind art gallery with the artist you might not expect. That's next.
I'm pretty clear what 9-0 says in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Hi, I'm Tom Green, former sports guy, now a news guy, proving that news and sports do overlap.
How much of a victory is this for Trump?
It is a tremendous victory.
An enormous win for former President Trump.
The unanimous reversal by the U.S. Supreme Court just gave Colorado its biggest blowout in politics. But as far as sports blowouts, we're all too familiar. Starting in 1990, when the Broncos lost 55-10, dropping that one to the 49ers in a little thing called the Super Bowl. In 2002, the Avs were just a win away from going back-to-back into the Stanley Cup Finals when the Red Wings blew them out by a 7-0 final. The University of Colorado and quarterback Joel Klatt made it to the Big 12 championship game in 2005, only to end up on the wrong end of the Longhorns, 70-3. And in 2007, of course, the Rockies did the unthinkable, making it to the World Series, only to do the thinkable in getting swept by the Boston Red Sox. And then today, Norma Anderson and 5 other Colorado voters just took the worst kind of L in the politics version of a championship game. But give it to Anderson for not shying away from the post-game interview.
It's a blowout.
Denver is on the hook for another multi-million-dollar lawsuit related to Denver police. A jury last week awarded a 78-year-old grandmother more than $3 million after a trial that claimed armed SWAT officers wrongfully raided her home 2 years ago. The jury awarded Ruby Johnson $3.7 million. A DPD SWAT team raided her home in January 2022 while looking for a truck stolen from a downtown Denver hotel. Police got a search warrant on Johnson's Montbello home based on Find My iPhone signals of an old phone left in the truck. But they did not find what they were looking for at her home, the truck or cash or guns that were supposed to be in the truck. A jury agreed with the ACLU, which sued on her behalf, claiming there was not probable cause for a warrant. Today, the ACLU said Johnson still lives with trauma from the incident and has since moved out of her home. The Denver Police Department declined to comment on the verdict and said they're still looking into the incident.
All right, well, we're still seeing those lingering snow showers off to the west while the Front Range and Eastern Plains continue to clear on out. We're partly cloudy outside right now. 42 degrees at DIA, winds coming in from the southeast at 10 miles per hour, making it feel closer to 36 degrees as you head outside. Now, we take a look at our HD Doppler radar, and this is where we can actually see those lingering light snow showers, and those are going to continue through the rest of the evening. So we do have winter weather advisories until midnight tonight. This includes areas like Rocky Mountain National Park, Park, Medicine Bow Range, into Rabbit Ears Pass. These areas are expecting around 2 to 5 additional inches of snowfall, but what we're really going to watch for are going to be these winds gusting up to 50 miles per hour. That's what creates that blowing snow, reduced visibility, hazardous travel through the rest of the evening. As for the rest of us tonight, we're going to see overnight lows mostly in the 20s and 30s. And the next few days, we're only going to see very slight chances for a few stray raindrops in across the Front Range and Eastern Plains both Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, as we go into Thursday, that's when our next real system is going to make its way into the Front Range. Late Thursday, we're looking for some scattered rain showers, transitioning into snow overnight, then scattered snow showers Friday, but sunshine returns for the weekend. Don't forget to set those clocks for daylight saving.
I love painting, and it helps me tremendously just to have an outlet.
An artist finds a home for his works and himself in a former Denver hotel. That's next. Want to be an artist? Finding a gallery to display your work is typically a good place to start. But one Denver resident is starting from zero, literally. A former hotel now serving as transitional housing gave him a place to stay and a place to share his art.
Right now we're at one of the Salvation Army facilities in the ballroom that they let me put my art in to kind of showcase. The purpose for this was so that I could take pictures of my art because I was trying to make a book. My name is Jason Alexander Hatt, and I like to go by JJ Alexander. That's my artist name. And the studio that I'm creating is XL Studios. Everybody that's bipolar, that's a manic, would love, they'll tell you that we love mania. That's what we live for, to be honest with you. So I was really, really buried in this depression that I could not kick. It was really bad. Oh my God, it was so bad. I like this picture a lot. I think it's pretty cool. I just started painting 2 years ago. That's it. So I've been an artist my whole life, and I love art. So I grew up doing that my whole life, really. And now I don't have any more of it left. It's all gone. I'm painting on a board I found in the dumpster. I used to have a big house, big mansion, the whole 9 yards, and I had everything you could ever wanted, but like I said, we're always one step away from being homeless. Finally got the right paint to finish some of this stuff. Thanks to the Salvation Army, I actually get to keep some of my things together, and I really appreciate that big time. If it wasn't for this, like I said, I probably wouldn't be here. This has really saved my life. I love painting, and it helps me tremendously just to have an outlet, just to not focus on maybe things that could be tremendously negative, in your life. It's just kind of, like I said, a world I get to create every day. It's something new, and it's a beautiful thing. I hope to be able to make it so that art could be my primary source of income. That would be awesome. I'd love that. This place has made it possible to focus on my passions and what I feel is my purpose. I would really want people to be inspired by mental health, to see that, just because people might be having an episode, we're all people just like the rest of you. We're trying to do the best we can, and sometimes coping and managing things that go on in our own minds and our own hearts are so difficult, but this is an outlet in which we're trying to do so. That's my goal. So sell art and hopefully be able to buy a house again someday. And yeah, this is really good. This is good for me, really good.
That's the former DoubleTree Hotel that's now a Denver housing facility. Marissa, with the feedback, tells me our next Word of Thanks campaign, people think it should be the Montbello DMV. That's what this says? I don't think that's going to be the next Word of Thanks campaign. The feedback throughout the show's programming, Sydney writes, DMV is a statewide service. Can Denver residents use a DMV office in Jefferson or Douglas counties? Yes, it is a statewide service. You can go anywhere to do that. Mark, the Supreme Court finding describes a federal process, but is a former President Trump still convicted of insurrection in Colorado? Interestingly, if former President Trump wanted to run for Colorado governor, the state could deem him an insurrectionist and disqualify him for the ballot for that state office. Finally, feedback from Tim. You're an absolute clown, Kyle. You toddler-looking commie. Well, one, that's not very nice, and two, I'm not Kyle. He'll be back later in the week.